Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to tell you why do I support proposed amendments to the Russian Constitution and why I will vote yes. I know the referendum was postponed because of the pandemic, but I'm still looking forward to it. But first, let me give you a little bit of history of the Russian Constitution. On October 15, 1993, Russian President Boris Yeltsin signed a decree on popular vote on the Constitution of the Russian Federation and approved the regulations on popular vote on the draft of Constitution of the Russian Federation on December 12, 1993. According to the provision, the Constitution was considered approved if the majority of voters who took part in the vote voted for its adoption, provided that more than half of the number of registered voters took part in the voting. The term popular vote, not referendum, was used in order to circumvent the provisions of the current law on the referendum of the RSFSR, according to Article 9 of which the referendum could only be appointed by the Congress of People's Deputies of Russia or the Supreme Council of the Russian Federation. The vote on the Constitution of the Russian Federation took place on December 12, 1993, with a turnout of 54.81% of voters. 58.43% of those who came to the polling stations voted for the adoption of the Constitution. The new Constitution was adopted and entered in. Some of you might ask, so what is wrong with the Russian Constitution? Why do you want it changed? Let me explain to you. Here are some articles and paragraphs I personally find problematic. Article 6, paragraph 3. A citizen of the Russian Federation may not be deprived of his or her citizenship or the right to change it. In comparison with the USSR, Russia is deprived of such a measure of punishment as deprivation of citizenship. That is, no matter if a Russian citizen is a criminal or a terrorist or a traitor, he or she cannot be deprived of the Russian citizenship and therefore the right to enter the country. Only by his own free will can he or she change his citizenship and country or residence. In contrast, in the US, naturalized citizens who are later found to have been engaged at any time before naturalization in persecution or genocide, or to have been involved at any time before naturalization or within 5 years after naturalization with the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, or a terrorist organization, may be denaturalized. Article 9, paragraph 2. Land and other natural resources may be in private, state, municipal, or other forms of ownership. The Constitution of the Russian Federation 1993 is the only constitution in the world that explicitly states the possibility of private ownership of natural resources. It is also significant that the word private comes before the word public, as if natural resources should be private in the first place. Article 12. In the Russian Federation, local self-government is recognized and guaranteed. Local self-government is independent within its jurisdiction. Local government bodies are not included in the system of federal government bodies. Thanks to this article, the president and governors do not have legal authority over mayors and elected deputies. Since the norm of the law on recalling elected mayors and deputies by the population does not work properly, we get a stratum of feudal lords who are not subordinate to anyone, who completely ignore the interests of the people and the state. Formally, control over the mayors and deputies are exercised through the courts, prosecutions, and institutes of direct democracy. In practice, these tools work poorly in Russia, which is why the control is more likely to be nominal and only works in case of egregious power abuse by people's representatives. Article 13, paragraph 2. No ideology can be established as official or mandatory. An ideology is an important part of the sovereignty of a country, just as its own currency or army. The ban on state ideology for Russia can be compared with the ban of its own armed forces, which was valid at different periods of history against many countries defeated in a war. A state without an ideology is like a ship without a rudder and sails in a stormy ocean. I'm not saying that the official or state ideology cannot be questioned. It just has to be present. Article 15, paragraph 4. The commonly recognized principles and norms of the international law and the international treaties of the Russian Federation shall be a component part of its legal system. If an international treaty of the Russian Federation stipulates other rules than those stipulated by the Russian law, the rules of the international treaty shall apply. This paragraph is unacceptable for a sovereign nation. It depreciates all Russian legislation, as it allows you to circumvent any norm of our laws by concluding an appropriate international treaty with any state. Article 81, paragraph 3. One and the same person may not be elected president of the Russian Federation for more than 2 terms running. This paragraph does not allow one and the same person to be president for more than 2 consecutive terms, regardless of how good the president pursues a policy, wherever he wants to continue or to remain in his posts, wherever his competitors support his further tenure as president. Yeah, I think I think that's just wrong. If the people like the president and the outcome of his rule, they have the right to elect him over and over and over again. I hope that all of the above is enough for you to understand why, as a Russian citizen and as a patriot of Russia, I support those amendments proposed by the President Putin. Well, there are a lot of good amendments. I will only name the most remarkable, such as finally securing the priority of Russian law over international law in domestic cases, securing Russians and the Russian language as a nation-forming ethnicity and nation-forming language, banning officials, parliamentaries and judges from obtaining foreign citizenships and foreign residence permits, and the minimum wage should not be less than the cost of living. Yeah, I'll give you a link, you may read it by yourself. But for now, Soviet Russian Bear out. Peace, love and prosperity to all of you. I will make a new video soon.